Hey bosses, real quick before we get started, I want to let you know about our sponsor, Indeed.com. They are the #1 job search and job posting platform out in the US. We'll tell you more about them during the break. Welcome to the Invest Like a Boss podcast.
I'm Sam Marks.
And I'm Johnny FD. We're self-made entrepreneurs who invest our own money and use modern technology to invest like a boss.
Join us each week for exclusive interviews with our network of modern investors, business owners, and multimillionaires to discover new ways to invest our hard-earned cash.
Hey bosses, this is Johnny FD and welcome to episode 154 of the Invest Like a Boss podcast. I am in Sigiriya, middle of the country, mountain town, I guess. Sri Lanka, and Sam is back in North Carolina.
No, South Carolina, the rebel state, man.
Oh,
Get it right. The rebel state. We got a lot of pride here in the South, in South Carolina. Yeah.
I keep mixing up the two.
Did you know that South Carolina was the state, used to be the richest state in the colony, and also was the state where the Civil War was kicked off?
Ooh. Yeah, and it's crazy.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, the North and South are such different places. I mean, that's literally where the war divided, right?
Well, actually, technically divided. I think north of Virginia. This has just happened to be where first shots were fired. I think it was at Charleston, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere on the coast. The Union had sent a boat down and to collect some tax money, and the rebels didn't like it, and
they said, "No, okay."
War.
Well, I'm sure there's more to that. There was definitely more to that story than we're giving. So you guys can do your history.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about South Carolina today is that is where you are in a basement again.
Yeah, but actually, I'll be living in a tent as of tomorrow. Just not a tent in the city. I'll be living in a tent in the Blue Ridge Mountains for about a week. But I did get good news that I believe I'll be able to move into my house a month early. It was going to be November. Now it looks like it'll be the end of September. So good news. I'll officially be a homeowner and a resident by the end of this month. So full steam ahead, ordering furniture, gym gear, coffee makers, wine, all that good domestic household stuff.
That is fantastic. I'm so proud of you, Sam, that you're no longer going to be homeless, living in your parents' basement, and then in a tent in the middle of downtown.
I'm nesting, Johnny. Nesting. It's what you do, and it's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, well, I guess so. Meanwhile, I spent the last 9 nights at this super nice beachside resort that normally sells for $200 a night because it was right on the ocean. $33 a night.
Dang.
And
it's not free. The last hotel you were staying in was free. I guess you've lost some of your influence recently.
Well, you know what? It was actually on purpose. I just wanted to just chill out it was only supposed to be for 4 nights. We were just going to chill out and just take a break. And I didn't want to have to make any videos. We ended up making a video about the place anyways because it's so beautiful. And then we ended up extending it from 4 nights to 9 nights because it was just such a nice place to wake up every morning. There was a bathtub in the room that overlooked the sunrise on the water. And I was thinking, like, we're never going to get this deal again.
Oh, so good. Well, for the listeners, last week when Johnny and I recorded commentary for the MLP episode, at the end, Johnny was asking, how everything was. And I was like, well, no, it sucks. Like, this is just terrible. I'm in Charlotte with in the living situation with like 4 people and a dog in a small place. It's hot. And Johnny's like, why are you not living in like a nice hotel or something? And I'm like, it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But the truth is that now I own 8 properties and I feel ridiculous paying for a hotel all through COVID because I can't access any of my properties. It's just, and I'm paying rent in Charlotte. And I'm like, I just don't want to waste money. Johnny's like, you know what, man? Like, I don't like to see you like this. Just like give yourself permission to and say, who cares? And just go rent a nice hotel. So literally packed a bag right after that. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I went and stayed at this hotel in Charlotte for 3 nights called the Ballantine.
Ooh.
It's like $350 a night. You can check it out. It's on my Instagram, but it is like, it was ridiculous. And there was nobody there. I had this like Biltmore style estate mansion to myself, like the bar, the pool, the gym, even I got a massage. The massage was $220.
Wow.
But it's like a 50 room like spa underneath the hotel. There wasn't a person down there except for me. I'm like, this is too cool, too good of an experience. So that was basically the last 4 days for me. Thanks for
That's
the tip,
great.
Johnny.
Well, actually, that wasn't the advice I gave you.
No?
No,
I
my
read it
advice
wrong?
was, I didn't tell you a $300 a night place. I said, take $3,000 and go rent a place, kind of out of the city for a month by
Oh, yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. It's hard to find places long term. I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing the same thing. Like every place outside the city is totally booked. Like there's 3 massive lakes outside of Charlotte. Every place around there is booked long term. So everyone's doing, like what we're going to talk about in this episode is how much more money you can make just renting nightly instead of long term. But I think a lot of people, there's just so much demand for staycations outside of big city centers right now that it's actually it's a strange phenomenon that it's hard to find a place right now given all the supply. But good segue into this week's episode with Shaun Greer from Vacasa. Johnny, you want to tell our listeners a little bit what it's about?
Yeah. So imagine kind of a full service, kind of Airbnb where instead of you, and on both sides, if you want to rent a place, like Sam does, you go on there and you can find vacation rentals. And if you have a place that you want to have them manage for you, do all the marketing, do all the cleaning, do all the booking, do all the maintenance, they do that side as well. So really kind of the vacation home property management all in one white glove service. I checked it out. They have some really cool properties on there. And I think it'd be interesting because I think right now a lot of people are considering either renting a place, and taking these nature trips, or maybe just buying a place and putting it on there. So that way you have a winter home or ski home or a summer home that you can rent out the rest of the year and not have to manage yourself.
Yeah. So back in 2008, I was working in a startup that we provided software to companies like Vacasa and other property rental management companies. And this was just becoming a sort of a big thing, right? Because used to have separation between the two services. You'd have a property manager like, hey, we're leaving the house for 6 months. Just take care of it. Make sure the lights work. There's no flooding. Make sure, keep an eye on the property type of thing. And then there's rental management companies, which are more just the marketing side. So Vacasa is blended the best of two worlds. And I think this is a very interesting episode as an alternative to an episode we previously published with equity estates. So for equity estates is much more an alternative for a second home. You make money. There would be the equivalent of a down payment on a second house that is invested for 10 years. And then you have access to their fleet of properties, their portfolio of properties kind of across North America and some properties abroad, but you have to pay the operating costs. This isn't a money-making investment per se. You might make money at the end when they liquidate the properties, but you're going to have a fairly significant monthly operating cost. With Vacasa, you can buy a property, you can hand over the keys, it's going to generate revenue. You can use it as much as you want, but of course, the more you use it, the less money you're going to make. And they're going to take care of everything. They can take care of the house bills, the property taxes. They can take care of all the maintenance, utilities, and then even the rental side. So basically, you hand over the keys, use it a few weeks a year, and get a check at the end of the year without the hassle. So I think it's a really, really good service for people that don't want to be hands-on, but still want to own a second home, but not have that second home be a money loser.
Yeah, potentially it could be a money maker, and you can still have a lot of the same benefits. Obviously, you don't get the benefits of having hundreds of properties around the world and a network that you can use. So you would end up going back to your one vacation rental whenever you want to go and take that trip. But if it's cash flowing, why not have multiple ones around the world? Imagine if, all 8 of your properties are actually cash flowing. You wouldn't mind buying a 9th or 10th one and having that.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're definitely going to discuss all the services and what you can expect as a property owner. But we're also going to talk about what I think is the most interesting part of this episode, which is the returns that you could expect from specific style properties, such as ski rentals we're going to focus on. But also, because Vacasa has so much data, they're able to do analysis on where the best returns are that on vacation rental property. So if you buy it and you're to lease it out for most of the year, where you can expect the best returns, this is extremely interesting data. If you're thinking about buying a second home, particularly in North America, you're going to want to listen to this episode, and you're going to want to hear what the findings were in this report that they publish each year.
All right, I love it. Let's hear from Shaun.
Hey bosses, I want to tell you about this week's sponsor, Indeed.com, the #1 job site in the world, because Indeed gets you the best people fast. So right now, there is a huge movement of remote work, and if your business is hiring, you have the potential of reaching people across the US for your job. But either way, if you're hiring locally or remote, you only have to pay for what you need, and you can pause your account at any time, and there's no long-term contracts. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. So right now, Indeed is offering our listeners a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try Indeed out. The free $75 ad credit at Indeed.com/ILAB. That's ILAB. This is the best offer available anywhere. Go right now to Indeed.com/ILAB. Terms and conditions apply. Offer valid through September 30th, 2020.
Guys, and we're back. Shaun, it's great to have you on the show.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this. I was just out in Colorado basically all of last month, and we're staying at a ton of lodges and resorts that were managed by Vacasa, and we found a lot found a lot through you guys, and was just really intrigued by the whole ski rental asset and property type, and just looking at how they're rented in the winters, how they're rented in the summers. I didn't realize, Shaun, how amazing it is in ski country in the summertime.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we manage properties all over the United States. We manage about 25,000 properties, but Colorado's a core market for us. And what you've seen in every ski destination market, they always want to extend the seasons as much as they can, right? So they're trying to shorten that mud season, and they're coming up with new and innovative ways to get people on the mountain biking, coasters, things like that during the summer, and it's working.
Yeah, it was definitely paradise out there. And you just mentioned mud season. I heard that for the first time when I was out there. They're like, oh yeah, April, May, you don't want to be here. And I had that same impression last time I went skiing. It was at the end of ski season in Tahoe, and everything was melting, and it was depressing watching all the snow melt, but the roads were disgusting. And you just got the impression that it wasn't a great time of the year to be there.
Yeah, it's definitely gets messy. With that, I think the locals enjoy it, right? Because they don't have a lot of tourists and stuff around. So sometimes it can be the best time to go there if you're not planning on, getting outside and stuff. You can sometimes check out some local restaurants and stuff like that because it's not as busy.
Finally get in without the waiting lines, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Well, excited to jump into it. It'd be great to hear a little bit about Vacasa, when the company was founded, just to give the listeners who aren't aware of the company just a brief background.
Yeah, for sure. So interesting story. We were founded in 2009 with just one home on the Washington coast. Basically, our founder had inherited a home. He lived in a different state, and every time they traveled there, he found himself working on the property with his family. So he started looking for companies to manage it. And what they told him was that he would receive about $3,000 a year from renting it out. And he said, there's got to be a better way. And so he founded Vacasa, and he started with that one home, renting it out as a vacation home. Mm-hmm. That first year, he brought in a little over $25,000 and knew that, okay, this was something that he wanted to put effort into. So Founded in 2009, we provide full service property management, which includes the marketing the properties, booking them, guest services, the cleaning, the maintenance, and paying for any permitting or taxes. And then we pay the homeowner the difference after our fees. And then in 2018, we expanded into real estate and launched Vacasa Real Estate. And this is a program where we partner with real estate agents that are not with our brokerage. And we also have real estate agents with our brokerage in helping people find the best vacation homes with an investment return. Very
cool. So outside of the new real estate division of your company, in say comparison to Airbnb, if you were a property owner and you wanted to list on Airbnb, that's just a marketing channel you're going to be doing, or you're going to have to employ property management on top of that. But with your company, you guys are giving an entire full service white glove experience to the property owner. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We're actually, Airbnb is a preferred partner of ours, along with Vrbo and booking.com and others. It's a marketing platform to get in front of guests. So we have vacasa.com as well. And then we market every property on Airbnb and the other booking channels to get more eyes on the properties and more demand, which turns into more revenue for our homeowners.
Now, in destinations like ski country, I was just out in Steamboat, for instance. Will you guys actually manage the entire building, or just the units that people list with you, in that building?
Yeah, actually we do both, especially in Steamboat. In some markets where you have condo hotel style buildings, you'll have an association manager for that complex. And we manage over 150 associations across the United States, many of them in Colorado as well. And so depending on where you're staying, we could manage the entire complex, all of the community areas, or we could just manage individual properties within complexes.
Got it. Yeah, because I was thinking, I kept seeing people in Vacasa shirts, and I saw you had like retail shops, or it looked like some type of operational headquarters in these. And I was like, what is the full scope of everything that you can do? But now I understand it. That's pretty awesome. So, as a property owner, you could basically just hand over the keys to you guys and not have to think too much about that property throughout the year. Is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. It's definitely a partnership with the property owner. We need to understand what are their desires and interests. We have some property owners that purchase a vacation rental with a desire to retire in it when they retire. And so that type of homeowner has different desires and needs than a homeowner that is 100% focused on investment return and cap rates. And so our platform is set up so that the homeowner can have some controls and design over how they want us to manage their property. With that said, we do take care of the full service of the property in collecting money, marketing, taking care of the guests while they're using it. We employ our own housekeeping staff and maintenance technicians. And so we have homeowners on both spectrums. We have some homeowners that may own 50 vacation rentals because that's their investment desire, and they're 100% revenue focused. And we are the best at generating revenue. And then we have other homeowners that, it's a family home, but they may live a few hours away and they need somebody to take care of their property, and they want to make some money to pay for the taxes and that sort of thing. So we understand the needs of the homeowners, and then we do as much as we can to craft our operations around those desires.
And you mentioned earlier, Shaun, about taxes. Do you guys actually handle tax payments and even maintenance, HOA payments like this stuff on behalf of the property owner? Or is that not an option through you guys?
Yeah, so we do handle all of the lodging, hotel taxes, depending on what municipality it is. And also any taxes for any fees and that sort of thing. So we pay those directly on behalf of the homeowner, and then the homeowner gets a 1099 at the end of the year saying, hey, here's the details. We do also, we can service other portions of the property, like landscaping and things like that, where we can run that through Vacasa. so that the homeowner doesn't have to worry about making payments. And we just deduct that payment off of the rental proceeds that the property makes.
That's a beautiful thing. Those things become a big peace of mind every month when you see all the bills rolling in and you like hate writing that check. It just gives you kind of this negative association with your property over time, I think, but that's cool. Great. So I wanted to jump into the rental side of the business. I think a lot of listeners are interested in this from an investment standpoint. I'm curious what you guys are seeing right now. We've been through such massive changes in 2020, and demand, I know just from personal experience, all the travel that I'm trying to do just locally. Like right now I'm staying in a hotel that's 7 minutes away from my house just to get out of my house, right? Get some space and get out of my house or my condo. It's different. House is better in a COVID world, but wanted to know what you guys are seeing in terms of demand in different markets. Are durations going longer or shorter? Just any high level views that you guys have of what's been the effect of kind of COVID so far?
Yeah, well, you definitely hit the nail on the head when you just said home compared to condo, because one of the things that we're seeing is a demand for single family type portfolio, and against like shared amenities or condos with shared pools and hot tubs. There's a higher demand for private amenities, hot tubs, things like that aren't shared. Mm-hmm. In addition, like what we saw was all of the markets across the United States, like travel restrictions were put in place during COVID, and around May when markets started opening back up, we weren't really sure what was going to happen, and what we found is that demand just skyrocketed. There was pent up demand. Our demand was about 20% over the prior year. So you can imagine going from 0 to 20% over prior year. It was challenging for us, but it was great to see people wanting to get, out of their homes. The biggest factors we see is drive-to markets. So people, the markets that are 2.5 hours away or so or less from major metro areas, we're seeing much higher demand than we've seen before. That's because people aren't flying. And then more desire for outdoors and single family homes with amenities.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It seemed like every place out in Colorado was almost booked fully. We had a lot of trouble moving from, once we were in a place, we were like, hey, let's go check out Vail and let's check out Steamboat. And it seemed like almost every place was booking up, 2-3 weeks in advance. I mean, there's a lot of inventory out there, but very popular place to be in with this world condition.
Outdoor area, right? So anywhere where it's outdoors. What you've seen is a shift as well from urban type market or demand to more rural demand. People want to be outdoors, and there aren't concerts and conventions and things like that going on. So those who had vacation homes in urban destinations are struggling a little more than the rural properties.
I assume that with your guys' new real estate arm, you have a lens into a lot of the different transactions going on in real estate, but then also on your rental side, you can see what the demand is, the pricing of what these places are renting for. Outside of COVID in normal times, or say in 2019, was there a favorite type of destination place that you like by category, say it's oceanfront or wine country? I mean, is there one place that stands out that always crushes it?
Yes. So there's different aspects from a overall revenue projection. Pre-COVID, you could pretty much count on higher revenue for oceanfront or near the ocean, mm-hmm. then lake, then mountain. And that was, pretty steady for multiple years. You do have some pockets when you look at the return rate, when you start looking at, okay, how much does it cost to purchase a home and what's the revenue generated? Gatlinburg, Tennessee has been at the top of the list, the top 5 for multiple years in a row. And it's because it's outdoors and there's some, it's easier to get to from some large metro areas. Mm-hmm. But since COVID, I think what we've seen in the big shift is markets that are close to major metros that are outdoors that have single family type inventory are the markets that are garnishing more demand and therefore higher average daily rate of rent and more rents.
Mm-hmm. So oceanfront, I guess, can be a year-round destination if it's a place like San Diego, and then mountain can certainly be a year-round destination if it's in ski country. Lakes can be kind of tricky, right? Because you could have a few good seasons, but maybe half the year it's totally undesirable.
Every market has its own unique thing. Like you picture a ski market, like there a couple of years ago, we had not a great snowpack, right? And that dramatically impacts the duration of the ski season, which therefore is the revenue of your vacation rental makes. And you can see a direct correlation between snowpack, ski season, and revenue for ski markets. You go to places like the Gulf Coast and they have different challenges. I mean, there's hurricanes that go through there, right? And so every different type of location has a different demand cycle. In general, like winter markets, yes, ski markets, they make more money in the winter, but they're starting to get a summer. And in general, oceanfront, you're going to make most of the revenue in the summer. They're trying to extend their winter by getting snowbird rentals and things like that. There are a lot of people in Canada that come down and purchase or stay in a vacation home for 3-4 months out of the year because they don't want to be in the snow in Canada for that long. Yeah.
And where do you guys currently have the most inventory hosted with you guys or listed with you guys?
Yeah. So because we started out on the West Coast, it used to be Oregon, Washington area with a few thousand properties on the coast there. Since we expanded starting about 4 or 5 years ago over to the East Coast in Florida, Florida is by far one of the largest vacation rental markets there are in the United States. And so that has now exceeded our inventory. And so Northwest Florida, Destin area is where we have the most portfolio over there. And it's a good mix too. You can have condos, you can have mansions that are on the beach.
Right.
So yeah, it's shifted a little bit, but I think as we continue to look for opportunities to expand in markets where our guests want to go, you'll see us continue to expand along the coasts and more interior markets as well.
Got it. Curious on the owner side of things, how frequent most of these owners are actually using the properties. You guys have recommendations or restrictions on how much the owners can use the properties?
We do not have any restrictions for owners. So it really depends on the owner persona. Like I was talking to you about, if you have an owner that lives an hour and a half away from their property, they're going to use it more than an owner that, flies in twice a year. It's very easy for an owner to book out their property. Every owner has an owner portal. They log in, they basically just block their calendar. They can do that for themselves or family and use the property whenever they want.
Very cool. And one thing I noticed in some of these rentals was that a lot of the owners seem to have had locked closets, which I assumed had a bunch of their stuff in it. Is that pretty typical?
Definitely is. Yeah. I'd say probably 80% of our properties have some sort of locked storage area or something. It's just difficult for an owner to be carrying, everything back and forth from their home. So yeah, you just lock off an area. Some of them build something into the garage. And that way all your stuff is there when you and your family show up. So yeah, probably about 80% of our properties have some sort of locked storage for the homeowner.
Super convenient. Love that. I wanted to jump into ski country rentals specifically, mostly out of personal interest, but also I know a lot of our listeners are very interested in this as well. Where's a good place to start with this stuff? I mean, I guess just from speaking to people out there, it seemed like most of the revenues were generated on ski season, which of course makes sense, kind of January 1 through the end of March. But when we were out there, everything was booked solid through the summertime. So I'm curious if you knew what the breakdown would be of how much revenue is generated in the different seasons.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you and your listeners kind of high level, the average daily rates and occupancy. We'll just pick a market, Breckenridge. But for any property that someone is looking at purchasing, what they can do is reach out to Vacasa, and our analyst team will provide a report that will give a projection of, hey, here's how much revenue that property is going to make, and here's how much revenue each month. And that's also available on our line or online. We have a Vacasa estimate basically that provides those details. So like in Breckenridge, you're looking at January, February, March, you're 50%, a little over 50% occupancy in general. Like you had said, most of those properties are taken every day, but there's days here and there that it's not. Then April, May drops off to somewhere around 10, 12% occupancy, and then jumps back up July, August, another 50% or so, and then drops back down October, November. So you really do, I would call it a 2-season market. It's just how long those seasons are. Winter season's longer, summer season's shorter, but it's a 2-season market. And so when you're looking for, as an investment, it's also great to pick out, 2-season type markets. So
yeah, got it. So I guess similar question there as just general rentals. How much do you typically find owners are using it during the high seasons? Like, are they taking a month out of ski season for themselves?
Typically not. And I think it, again, really depends on why the homeowner has a vacation home in the first place. If you have a home that you are going to take all of the peak season for, you're really not going to get as much revenue back from the property, because that's when it gets rented. 4th of July is likely the highest average daily rate across any vacation home. So if you use it every 4th of July, like, you're not going to get that income. And for some owners, that's great. For other ones that are like, hey, I purchased this property accounting for that income, then, they're not going to use it during those peak seasons as much.
Got it. I was trying to find a place, or I have been trying to find a place to rent for the entire ski season coming up, because I just feel like, this is the year to do it, right? Like, everyone's working remote. So, but I found it very difficult looking online and asking around, because, again, I guess to your point, so much money is made just in the nightly rentals versus renting it long-term. Do you find it common that people are renting out their places on like monthly rates, or is it almost just straight daily rates through peak seasons? Yeah,
if you're looking at revenue, so the average daily rate for, a 3-2 in Breckenridge is about $450 a night. And so, like, many people aren't going to be able to afford that for a month or 2 months, right? So it really comes down to what the demand is and what the property can garnish. With that said, there are restrictions on certain properties, and this is why it's important. If you're thinking about buying a vacation home, definitely talk to experts and locals in the market. The restrictions start at kind of the state, then the county level, then the city level, and then actually the HOA or association level. And so what you can find is some associations will require no shorter than 7-day stays, or no shorter than 30-day stays. So there definitely are properties that you can rent because that's all that they allow is 30 days or more stays. It's just there are fewer of them, and there are less of them on the short-term rental, programs or platforms. So, but they're definitely out there.
Do you guys have any of that inventory specifically?
We do. We definitely do it in multiple markets. I know.
Send me a link.
It's funny when I looked. I just went and looked at Colorado and Vermont and some others for December 1 till the end of December. and there's nothing available. And I mean, what it tells you is like, there's properties already booked, right? So yeah, they do exist. It's not the majority of properties though, for sure.
Okay. Well, if you come across any, let me know. I'm definitely in the market to book, because I think the ski season is going to be, like you said, use the word before, pent up demand. I think there's massive pent up demand. And if there's any type of social distancing restrictions in place, it means it's just going to be tougher to get on the lifts. But yeah, so I was thinking just go out for a month and then take your time. You don't have to try to rush 5 days of skiing in. But
yeah, Vail Resorts did actually release their COVID plan, which does have some restrictions in play. So yeah, I would say let's help you find that place to stay for sure.
Great. Well, I guess that means ski season's on then, correct?
That's what they said. Yes, it should be less busy on the mountain. So
no more bait and switch. I had everything booked for this 2020 in March, and I was just about to get on my flight. I was at the airport about to get on my flight to Tahoe when Vail Resorts sent out the email saying it's, everything's closed. So at least I didn't get on the flight, but still kind of a dagger, and you're excited about that, to have that stripped away last minute.
Yeah,
fun.
Definitely. I think it's going to be an interesting year for all ski resorts. I think, I've seen some unique ways that they're planning on handling it. I think ultimately what it means is less people on the mountain. So it should be, better powder days. But it's going to be unfortunate for some people. They're not going to be able to get the opportunity to go up and do it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, fingers crossed. I think, generally when all the listeners are listening to this, they're thinking about how good the opportunity is to make an investment in one of these units, in one of these properties. Do you guys have any high level numbers of what someone could expect? Having it managed by you guys, full tilt, everything top to bottom, just a return on what you could expect on, say, like a 2.2 or a 3.2, after all the expenses are paid out and the owner's just left with the gravy.
Yeah, for sure. And this is one of the reasons why we put together an annual report. It's, the top 25 best places to buy a vacation rental for investment.
Wow.
So we do have that. We do that once a year, and it's been interesting to see kind of some of the changes there. I think there are 3 Colorado markets on the list. So it sounds like, you might have some interest in looking at that. But depending on the markets and the purchase price of the properties, we basically look at across our, 700 or so destination vacation markets. We then look at what the median sale price of the properties are and what the average rental revenue is. And then we subtract out, fees like taxes and some for maintenance, and then our property management to come up with a cap rate for the different markets. And so there's the top 25 out online. You can look it up, but the top 3, Big Sky, Montana is at a 9.2% cap rate. Then Cape Hatteras, North Carolina is at 8.6. And then Poconos, Pennsylvania, which is a little ski destination, 8.2% cap rate. And then some of the Colorado markets are still on the top 25 list, but range anywhere from 6% to a little over 5% return. So what that means in dollars, it really just depends on the market, right? And so that's why we do it at a cap rate. Those prices range anywhere from over $500,000 down to $250,000 in different markets.
Shaun, what was the best market in Colorado?
Yeah, let me see.
I was thinking it's got to be like Copper Mountain, or
so,
Copper's like they're in the mix, but it's just doesn't generate quite the crowds, it seems like.
So the ones that are on here is Vail, Silverthorne, Breck, and Steamboat. And they're all really close to around 6% return. And what we find, if you just look up like, hey, how much does it cost to purchase a property in Vail? It's very expensive, right? What we're seeing is with the low interest rates that we have right now, the the inventory or the market is actually expanding as much as it can, so that vacation rentals are now making money on the outskirts of town, as where before most of the demand was just right as close as you could get to the ski mountain, which it still is the highest demand, but the markets are also expanding. And so you can get a lower purchase price property that's a little bit further out from the ski lifts and chairs for less money, but you're still going to make a really good return. And so, some of the condo properties in Breckenridge are anywhere from $50,000 to $65,000 a year is the rental revenue.
Wow.
And then Steamboat Springs is somewhere around the $35,000 to $45,000 a year for a condo, small condo.
Not too shabby. Yeah. And you really got to make use of these things, because I was even looking at the HOA where we were staying in Steamboat, and HOA for a nice but pretty small one bedroom was like $1,200 a month. I'm like, Jesus.
Yes, definitely.
Burning
so
a
that's
hole in
the
your
thing
pocket.
In the ski markets, you have a lot of maintenance from snow shoveling and all that sort of stuff. And so we actually see a higher fee ratio in Colorado or the ski markets than we do in other markets where you don't have as much maintenance.
Okay. And you mentioned the property in Breckenridge, like a 3-2 during peak season, you're getting about $450 a night for that. What would be like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom in comparison to that figure?
Let me just look up a little bit. Let's see. So I have something in Steamboat here that's a 2-2. It's about an average rate of $265 a night. And so these are averages. And so the way that Vacasa's, we have a yield management team and software. So our prices are dynamic, kind of like in airlines. They can change up to 4 times a day based on demand and weather patterns and all kinds of stuff like that. And so these are average daily rates that I'm giving. There's definitely times when we exceed that and go lower than that to fill the occupancy. And, if you're looking for a property, 5 or 6 months out, you're going to pay a higher price because, you're planning that out. Our prices decrease as that booking window shortens. So, if we don't have that property booked for 2 days during the week, but it's booked on both weekends, and that's a week out, then we're going to drop the prices of those 2 days during the week so that we can get a stay in there and get the homeowner revenue.
Are any of the property owners or anyone on your team thinking about ski seasons longer term? And it seems like ski seasons they're pretty volatile. I mean, sometimes we get these massive long seasons that almost go an entire year. And other times it seems like it's only like a 2 months of decent snow, but everyone seems to think the world's heating up and ski seasons will get shorter. Is there any type of conversation going on your team or with homeowners around that?
Yeah, there's definitely conversations that we run into with some homeowners that are thinking of buying and where should they buy and what the global warming is doing. Primarily, it's been in our coastal markets and when people are looking for properties on Key West and other markets where the elevation is a few feet above sea level. And they're saying, okay, well, what's going to happen in 15 to 20 years? Right. Is my house going to be underwater? I haven't heard as much about the ski seasons and snowfall. We just had a pretty great year last year. It just seems like you just can't forecast it. Definitely our demand and our teams know when a storm rolls in and if it's a long season or not, because we work that much more. Yeah. But from a servicing standpoint, we'll do the same thing, whether it's good or bad snow.
Got it. Well, real quick, as we kind of get into closing, Shaun, what are the top ski markets in terms of demand that you guys see? Maybe the top 2 or 3.
Yeah. So Solitude, Utah is at the kind of the top of the list for our demand last year, and then Silverthorne, Colorado, and then Big Sky, Montana. So
that's
those
so
are the
interesting
3 that we saw the highest occupancy, which we kind of correlate with demand. Yeah. And then Frisco, Colorado is not too far down the list either.
That's very interesting. I've never heard of Solitude, actually. Silverthorne I heard of. Big Sky, yeah.
Oh, really?
Solitude, yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. You got to check out some of the Utah ski markets.
Very cool. Good stuff. Shaun, this has been awesome, man. Learned a ton. Can't wait to share this with all the listeners. That report that you mentioned, is that published currently?
It is. Yeah. It is Vacasa top markets. You can just type in 2020 best places to buy a vacation home and it should come up in any major search engine. And we just have them listed there. And then you can click on those locations and get a little more details about the local activities and that sort of thing.
And listeners, we'll leave a link to that in the show notes. I bet that report is in high demand from all types of interested people, from private equity to retail investors. That's
you're right on.
Really
there.
Interesting.
Definitely seeing interest across the board.
Really interesting data, to say the least. Great. Before we break, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Anything to shout out about the company or what's going on?
Yeah, I think just for those that are looking for a vacation rental, thinking about purchasing it, just make sure you work with somebody who's experienced, somebody who's closed 10 to 15 transactions that are vacation rentals. It's a unique purchase. Like I talked a little bit about the regulatory restrictions of the daily rentals, that sort of thing. There's advanced bookings, like many of these properties, when you go buy them, there's advanced deposits that need to transfer to you when you buy it. So there's things like that that are unique, that are different from a primary residence. So that's probably the biggest thing I'd say to listeners when they're looking.
Awesome. Listeners, stay tuned to commentary from Johnny and I. Shaun, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Sam, I ain't gonna lie. I've really thought about buying a vacation home and listening with these guys after listening to that.
I didn't actually know that you can make or expect to make such a, it's a fairly substantial return when you think of it. Because when I think of vacation homes in the USA, even when you're renting them out, thinking the best you can do is break even, just because taxes and HOAs are so high. Like I was out all month, last month in Colorado, and I was looking at these places. The HOAs are, for even a one bedroom, you're going to be paying close to $1,000 a month. The two bedroom, you're paying more than $1,000 a month just in HOA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is crazy. But you know what else is crazy is the nightly rental prices. I was taking a look around and everything's, minimum $250, $300, $400 a night. And people are willing to pay it, I guess.
Well, John, you got that extra $100,000 you've been looking to deploy somewhere. Another great thing about property in the USA, and this probably goes for everybody for their home country where they have citizenship and some history, is you can get a bank loan. So that $100,000 would certainly buy you a $500,000 two bedroom in Vail.
You know what? I was actually looking into that, and I had to prove. I think I was applying for the new visa to the country of Georgia, and they just needed to prove that you made $2,000 a month. And I was like, oh, that's easy. And I started trying to upload the documents, and I realized I don't have proof that I make $2,000 a month.
Yeah, because it's not easy.
It's like, as an entrepreneur,
you're not getting paid the same amount each month for the last 3 years from a company.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, if I ever needed to take an actual loan out to buy a house or something, I can't prove I can't prove I make more than $1,000 a month. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a weird thing how, for people that live off investment income or that are retired, it can be really challenging. I'm pretty sure you can do it. There's all these different types of loopholes that mortgage companies can file through, but it's non-standard. So it just takes a lot more work, and it's super frustrating because you're like, you think you should be getting a mortgage so easily, and it's really not that easy. If you're self-employed or an entrepreneur, or you're just like, you make money 1 year and nothing the next year, it's almost impossible then, even if you have net assets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was taking a look at that PDF. We'll have a link to it in the show notes below. Mm-hmm. But on the top 25 markets for buying a vacation home in 2020, if one of the top 5 or any of the higher cap rate ones were in a tax-free state, like in Texas, maybe even Florida or Nevada, I would consider buying one. But it looks like we got Montana, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Alabama. They're all, I mean, and maybe, I don't know. I don't know if there's a correlation. Maybe tax-free states have higher property taxes that lowers the cap rate. But I don't even know if they actually even factor that in. I'm pretty sure these cap rates are a bit, I don't want to say exaggerated, but they're high level, and they don't factor everything in. You're not really going to get 9.2% returns on your house in Big Sky, Montana. This probably doesn't. I think this just. I'd have to look into it more, but I'm pretty sure this would not include things like, needing to change the roof every, however many years, or maybe your annual property tax that might not be factored in. They said that they factored in kind of the local taxes, but I'm pretty sure like this doesn't also include things like your mortgage payment or all the other kind of random expenses that will eat away at that 9%.
Yeah. Well, actually the return is much, if you have a mortgage, then the return could be much larger based on the amount of money you put down. Like Kevin in Hong Kong, self-storage is always like, making 30% levered, right? Cause he's only
money
down
on money,
10%. Yeah. But let me ask you, you mentioned the state tax. Why would it matter for you? You're already non-resident of the USA or a resident of Texas. Why would it matter to you if you bought a place in, say, California?
So I think if I had a place in California, it would complicate the taxes again. I would buy it kind of as a way to hedge against California ever coming back after me and just saying like, no, look, I own property in Texas.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. Well, that makes sense. You could take a look at Tennessee. Tennessee, I believe, has like a 3-year plan, or it's like 2 years into a 5-year plan of becoming state tax free. And from what I've heard, they're going to be the most aggressive at being tax free. So that means like even on some of your investment earnings, you won't have any income tax on that, which would be someone who went to that level. That'd be a game changer, right? Because you'd get so many retarees moving there.
Yeah.
If you weren't taxed on your investment accounts.
That'd be amazing. I'm actually surprised there hasn't been a state yet besides Puerto Rico who's, tried luring in retirees during this, because I would move there in a heartbeat. So Tennessee, reach out. If that law gets pushed through, I'm moving to Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Tennessee Johnny. Well, yeah. I think this data is super helpful. I mean, it just goes to show you that like, you can make money off of these things. And what really appeals to me is just being able to turn the keys over and not think about it. Just like my property down in Phuket in Thailand. I literally don't think about that property at all year unless I want to go use it or I'm having a friend or a family stay at it and I have to contact them. Other than that, it's just a check at the end of the year. It's no muss, no fuss. Everything's taken care of. And that experience is beautiful. So if Vacasa can replicate that experience, and you can make a 6-7% return and get to use the property a couple times, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, one nice thing about this model is if Vacasa doesn't do a good job for whatever reason, you own the home and you get to switch. I mean, even you can either try to find another white glove turnkey system, or you can piece yours together and say, you know what, this didn't work out or the fees are too high. Let me, get a separate property manager, under them, they can hire the maintenance guy and everything. Maybe I'll do the vacation rental, marketing on the side, or hire someone else to do that. So you have the option to pull the plug with them, probably anytime. I don't know exactly what the contract is, but you own the home. So, worst comes to worst, once the contract's over, you can, you can take it in your own hands.
Yeah. It's just like a recreational vehicle, Johnny. You can do it all different types of ways. You can get the full-on big boy drive-in. You can get the fifth wheel pull behind. You get the little camp pop-up trailer and tow a car behind it. I mean, there's just like a million different ways you can do it between property management and rental management companies, depending on how active you want to be. And of course, the more active you are, the more money you're going to make. Also, the more headache you're going to make. But interested to hear. We should definitely get a conversation going in the Boss Lounge and our Patreon group just about where people own their second homes or their vacation rentals, and see what types of returns people are getting around the world on these properties. I can certainly contribute some to that chat, but would love to hear from more people in the group.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting, and if they're actually making money from it or not, because I would imagine that most people with a vacation home, they end up kind of just sitting there, and they end up either costing people money or breaking even, as you said. And even through Vacasa, I would be very curious kind of to talk to someone who has a property managed through them, and know, how much they're actually getting at the end of the year after, the other kind of random things that come up, that might not be included in that cap rate.
Yeah. This year is so funny because some people are probably making more money than they've ever made on their vacation rental
Yep.
just because of all the staycations and stuff. And some people are probably making nothing. Like I'm making zero this year off my 3 properties in Chiang Mai because there's literally nobody there, and the Thais don't go there and vacation at these places, right? So it's a fully expat driven demand market. But I'm from my experience being out in Colorado, by the way, like I saw Vacasa everywhere out there. That's how this episode started. I'm like, who's this company, man? They're everywhere. The demand in July and August in Colorado was out of this world. Like I had to drive to further and further distant places to just find a place that was available for like 3 days. So it's booming, man. People want to be out in nature, want to get some space, and want to get out of their multifamily complexes.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a permanent change. I mean, obviously the demand for these, long-term, or not even long-term, but this hype instacations right now, that's slowly going to normalize. But I do think that more and more people are going to want to get out of nature, or get out of the city and get into nature, maybe even work from there. So I do think actually it would be a good investment. So Sam, if you wanted to buy a property and put it on Vacasa, I would support it.
I don't think it's for me. No more property in the US of A. Although if I was going to do it, it would be in this exact manner. Buy something, turn the keys over, and forget about it. There's no way I'm taking care of any more properties in the near term.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing I would do is if I lived in the US, I would buy an RV and I would put it on these RV rental sites that charge like $250, $300 a night on a $75,000 RV. Those returns are insane.
Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. I think people are going to continue renting these things for a long time, but I think prices are going to go down. Right now, there's so much in demand, but there are a gazillion secondhand RVs for sale in North America. I mean, every single corner you pass up here, there's like brand new looking RVs for sale for half the price. So you can pick those things up really cheap. Right now, I think this demand is supercharged because people just want to have their own space. And a lot of the local places around town are not available. So it's a weird time. But some of those, do you know any of those off the top of your head, the names of those? Because some of them are, I think there's Outdoorsy is one of them.
Yeah. RVshare.com. Go RVing.
That's become a really big thing recently. Half the people don't even know how to drive an RV or hook it up, but they'll just like go camp out.
Just buy one anyways.
For a week. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would buy one of those Class Bs where they're basically like driving a Sprinter van. I mean, they're literally built on a van platform. So there are options.
There are options. Listeners, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let us know what you think. Let us know how your second home rental property is performing, where it is. The more you can share, the better. We'd love to get that conversation going. If you are in the USA, check out Vacasa. I'm not sure if they're operating internationally yet, but I had a really good experience with them. Every place that we went out west that we were running from them, very professional group. So without direct experience, I'd recommend them. And Johnny, any new updates on your second home plans? You've been pretty close. You've been thinking about it a lot.
You know, what's funny is I logged into my bank account and I saw $5,000 had gotten kicked back to me. And I'm pretty sure it's from these guys. So it might have just not gone through. And that might've been my what do you call it? A sign. Yeah. My out.
Yeah. Easier than my out in Thailand that went wrong, but all's well that ends well.
Yeah. But I like the idea of it. I just think it was probably a bad idea for me to put a third of my total net worth into one property. So it's been fun, and it's been a great episode. If you guys like this episode, make sure you share it with your friends. Give us a review in the new podcast app on either your iPhone, your MacBook, or I have no idea how to do it on Windows now because iTunes switched over. But wherever you can, give us a review. Give us a rating, and we'll see all of you guys next week.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Invest Like a Boss podcast. Join our mailing list at investlikeaboss.com to get exclusive access to our insider investment portfolios and our private members forum.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends and leave us a review in the iTunes store. It helps more than you know. See you guys next week.